Hey, thanks for joining the Two Dumbass Woodshop channel. In this episode, we're going to take this 1x and turn it into a small flag, a small American flag. So stay with us. Okay, now that we've got our length of blocks cut out, one block is going to be 12 inches long, the other one's going to be 18 and a half. I like to burn them before I cut them. If you don't like the burn look, which is fine, you can skip this step. But you can use a torch, or you'll see here, I'll show this method with the hand torch, and then I've got a bigger torch that I do all of them at one time a little bit quicker because I do so many of these. But let's burn these. I want these burnt, and let's get into that. When you're burning these, you just want to go really slow and even. And again, you're just looking for whatever look. I like it on the darker side. But again, it depends on what look you're looking for, and it really brings out the grain. Don't worry if you get it too dark. You can always come back with sandpaper and lighten up areas, or make it to your liking. All right, there we have our burnt small stripes. All right, this is what I use. It's really a weed torch used to eliminate weeds, but I do a lot of these flags and almost all of them are burnt, so I think this does a great job, and I can do a lot of them at one time. So keep in mind, this is enough wood for 5 small flags. So again, just a nice, pretty even toast. We're gonna cut these to about 3/4 of an inch strips, and we're gonna just mix them up randomly. So, if there is any patterns or anything like that, it's gonna get mixed up when we cut them into strips. But that's why I like the big torch. It seems to do a little more even toasting, and you certainly can get a lot done pretty quickly. So the next step here is to cut these strips down to so they're stripes. Okay, we're going to cut strips here. What we're looking for, the width on this, we want to set at 23 30-seconds. Just 1 30-second under 3/4 of an inch. And I have this block that I created. Again, I make a lot of these flags, so I use this block and it's set for that. If you're off by a 30-second, it's just going to throw your width dimension off a little bit. And affect your union, but we can certainly adapt to that. But if you can target 23 30-seconds, that's the number that we're looking for at this step. Okay, we're getting ready to rip these. Make sure you've got your safety glasses on and hearing protection when you're cutting wood. But you're really looking for, we need 6 strips. Again, I'm going to cut more than that with these because I'm making 5 flags, but you need 6 strips that are 18 and a half inches long, or the longer board. And you need 7 stripes from the small boards. So 13 stripes is what we're looking for. And depending on what 1-inch material you're using, is going to determine how many stripes you're going to get out of each board. Okay, at this stage, you've got all of your stripes cut. Again, you've got 6 of the long ones, and you've got 7 of the short ones. And at the next step here is staining/painting, and then we'll get into assembly. So stay with me here. We're going to stain these bad boys and go from there. Okay, now you've got your stripes, white and red. And again, you don't have to make these white. You can leave them burnt. I do a little bit of both. I like the white ones actually. I think it shows a little more contrast, but you don't have to do that. And now we have to piece these together. So I've done this 5 or 6 different ways, but the last technique that I've used seems to be works out best for me, and that is to stack these and then use an 18 gauge nailer to put 3 nails in these to hold them together. And like I said, I'm using an 18 gauge nailer with 1-inch brats. And the advantage of that is it allows me to stack them, keep the fronts even, and the sides even. So I get a much even, flatter flag, because these, once you cut these boards, usually this pine is pretty wet and it starts to warp immediately. So when you roll these over and you try using a clamp, it's almost impossible to get them super flush. So not that it's a big deal, a lot of character in these flags, but again, this just seems to go faster and quicker for me, and I come out with a better product. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stack, what I do is I just stack these up, and I keep, as I'm looking at the flag, the left edge I wanna keep fairly square or straight. So I'm gonna line up this edge, and again, keep in mind it's red, white. You start with red, you end with red at the top of the flag. So I do that prep so I don't make that mistake. But I'm gonna stack this first one here, get it nice and flush. It's more feel than look. And I'm gonna put one brad towards the left side, and I'm gonna put one in the middle, and I'm gonna square up the end here. Now, here's a perfect example is, see how off this is? So I'm gonna be able to move that in place, and then I'm gonna cut this off to square off the edge. So I don't want it right on the edge, but I want it towards the edge. And boom. Now I got, you know, my bottom 2 stripes, and I'll just keep stacking these up. Okay, there's the bottom 6 stripes of my flag. A couple watch outs here when you're nailing these. If there's a knot in your stripe, try to avoid that knot. Sometimes that'll deflect the nail, and bad things could happen. Try to keep this left edge as square as you can. I'm going to come back and cut this square, but I want this to be kind of my reference edge. Now I've got to put on my short stripes here. Now keep in mind I cut these at least a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch long, and I'm going to use my template here that I'm going to use for my union to put my stars on. So I'm going to put my stencil up here. I'm going to line it up with the edge, and then I'm going to make sure I have a square edge on this. And I'm going to nail that short stripe. I'm going to start nailing my short stripes in place. The watch out here is when you're putting these on, make sure that the edge is square to begin with, and then each one has to be pretty square. In fact, I'm going to get you'll see me, I'll put a square up here to make sure that this edge is square, because we want to cut a square union to put in here as a one piece for the union. Again, you're seeing some hangover here. I'm going to come back here after I get these all nailed and cut this square. So let's get these installed. Okay, that's you know, the nucleus of our small flag here. Again, you can see that I've got overhang. I'm going to square that up. In fact, that's going to be the next step. I'll square this edge up. I'll probably do this edge after I put the union on, just to square up both. And it's just that easy. Now you can put glue in between these if you want. To me, it's an extra step that I haven't seen any value in, but I'm going to square these edges, and then I'm going to come back and put the backer boards on here. Is going to be the next step. With any leftover scraps, when you rip these stripes, you're going to have some leftover scraps. So what I like to do is I'll cut those to length, and I'm going to put 3 backer boards on here. Now these backer boards I'm going to glue on, and they're really there more from a structural standpoint to inhibit warping on this flag, so it stays as flat as you can get it. So I don't measure these, but if you're going to put these on, maybe an inch from each edge, and then the middle one is going to be the key one, and when we get to that one, I'll talk some more on it. Okay, we got the 2 outside backer boards on, and then we're going to put one in the middle, and this middle one straddles where the union's going to go, and this allows me to attach the union to the flag. All right, that's what it should look like at the end of this step. Again, we've got this is pretty straight here. And we've got 2 backer boards here. They're going to support our union, and you know, everything's in good shape. Next step, let's cut out a union. Okay, this is the stage where we're at, where we can focus on the union. I thought I would just give you a look, compare and contrast. I made one of these flags, you know, with no white stripe. It's just a burnt stripe as the white stripe, and then obviously red and white over here on the right-hand side. So again, whichever one you like. But at this stage, we're going to make this union, and this union should be approximately 5 inches tall by 7 inches long. But I don't like to measure for these. What I like to do is this rough cut. This is where a 1x6 is perfect for this. I like to rough cut a little bit longer and a little bit wider, and it allows me to mark and cut these exactly and come out perfect every time. So the next thing you're going to see is me measuring out a rough cut for this 5x7 union, and then getting it cut precisely, and then glued and measured and nailed in place. This is a 1x6, so you can kind of see how that's looking. Again, I cut it extra long, and it's even though it's a 1x6, it's 5¼ inch width, so I got a little bit of a gap that I can cut out here. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to mark it and cut it. I don't like to measure things if I don't have to. This will allow me to get this cut precisely. A couple watch outs here. One is, this is going to be your union, so you want to use the side with the least amount of knots, because you're either going to carve, stencil, or add wooden 3D stars on here, and the less knots it is going to be better. The second thing is, if this edge is not square, your union is not going to be square. So you got two options, actually three options. You can sand and carve this out to make it square. You can sand or carve your union to make it square, or a combination of both. But you can see this one's a pretty tight fit, and if you do a good job in assembly, that's usually the case. So next step here is to trim this perfectly and cut this to match perfectly, and then we can get on to staining and glue.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Okay, you've got your union stained navy blue now, and the next thing you're going to want to do is take your template, take your 5x7 template, and if your union is a different shape than your template, your stencil, then just make sure it's centered so you have equal amounts above or below it. In this case, I'm just going to split the difference on how much this was a little bit wider. Again, you're making your union to match the flag, and it could be off a little bit. So mine's off about 1/8 of an inch on the top and 1/8 of an inch on the bottom. The biggest thing when you're putting your stencil on your union, the stars need to be facing upward. So I always mark the back. I always mark the back of my union which way's up, and then that just helps me identify which position the stars go in. These are a 1/2 inch. These are a 1/2 inch star that goes on this size of flag. I use flagcalculator.com. I'll include that link right through here, but it really helps me identify if someone's looking for a different size flag, what size the stars are, how big the stripes, how big the union, everything. You can just plug one number in there and it just does the calculation for you. So flagcalculator.com. Anyway, we've got our stencil here, so now we got to put stars on here. You can burn stars on here. You can paint stars on here, stencil. I like to use what I call 3D wood stars. So they're just CNC cut out little stars, wood shaped like this. Sometimes I paint them white. So most of the time I just leave them the wood color that they come in. They're like 1/8 inch birch. I get mine from Banks CNC, but there's a lot of different vendors out there, but I've been really happy with Banks. I'll include that information in this video. But I'm going to mark my union with my stars facing up, and then I'm going to place the stars on there, and then I'm going to use a 3/8 inch 23 gauge brad nail to brad nail it in place and pin it in place. So pretty invisible hole that you can leave in the star. Let's do that and see how it turns out.
Meant to be in the great outdoors,
and now we're going to attach that to our flag using some glue and some brands from the back side. All right, here's your flag with the Union and the stars attached. Looks good the way it is. I haven't done anything with these edges yet. You've got options with the edge. You can paint these all black. I've painted them black and they look good. You can paint them red or white to match the front of the stripes of the flag, whatever. So what I do almost 100% of the time is I get 1x2s and 8 foot long. I paint them black and then I cut them and make a frame, and then I frame these up. That way I don't have to deal with, you know, I don't deal with the edges at all. No matter what they are, it doesn't matter to me, and I can, because they're going to get covered up. So that's what I'm going to do with at least 3 of these flags. We'll see what the other one's going to look like, but I'll paint those 1x2s black, and then I'll cut it and frame it and nail it in there, and then all we have left is the polyurethane. Okay, one of the last steps here is to put some type of coverage on this. I like to use this Minwax indoor-outdoor spar polyurethane. Even though the flags will deteriorate outdoors after a while, I mean, this is the best stuff on the market. I like to use gloss, but you can use any covering really, satin, semi, whatever, but I really like the looks of the gloss here. So let's slop some poly on these and see how they turn out. All right, it's the home stretch now. I put 2 coats polyurethane on this, the Hellman's indoor-outdoor Minwax. Really like the way it turns out with the gloss look. So that's this. The last 2 steps for me, 3 steps, are to put D-rings on the back of this. So I just put 2 little D-rings on the back to hang it. I put my business card on the back, and I use a scorch pen to sign it and date it when it was made. So those are the last steps to finish this out. I hope you I hope you'd enjoyed this podcast. If you have any questions, please write in the comments, and return those as soon as I can. If you have any comments, put them in the comments. We'll return those as soon as you can. We'd also ask you to check out our other channel, which is Midwest Hunting and Outdoors. We'll put that link in here, and easy way to get a hold of that at the end of this episode. Other than that, be safe, have fun, and make some sawdust.